Hey there, my name is Silvestri, and this is SEO in 2024.
Alan, what's your number one SEO tip for 2024?
Right, my number one SEO tip is to leverage happy customers, essentially, for ethical backlinks. And there's a couple of ways that we are trying to do this.
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, so you've sent me through a list of a few bullet points, a few different ways that you're doing it. So let's be wonderful to go through the different ways that you're actually doing this. So the first one was case studies.
So actually, before we dive in, the main concept behind the whole thing is something that's very important. And I think a lot of companies should start doing is most companies essentially stop at just asking for a review or like a testimonial maybe, right? And then they just slap it on the website and then they don't really do much with it. But for me, the key point here is to think about your customer as a whole persona, right? So they have different hobbies, they have different interests, they have a network of people that they know that you can actually leverage to get more reach, more engagement for your content, for new content, and for backlinks, essentially. So there's a couple of ways to go about this. The first one is case studies.
Yeah, and just before you go into that, I absolutely love that point there as well. I think it's also great to recognize every single customer interaction or prospect interaction within your business as a marketing opportunity as well. So someone within your customer service team or even accounts department or HR talking to people, it's a marketing opportunity. Completely agree with you there as well. But sorry, case studies, yes.
It's okay. Case studies is a great opportunity. The company that's doing it like the best, I think, right now is HubSpot. And that's a great example. They have a case studies hub page that you can have a look at as well. They have different case studies for different companies, for example. And the first thing that I noticed when I popped that into my SEO tool is there's a lot of those case studies that first off are ranking for the company brand terms. So that's traffic that you can get as well if you optimize the case study. But the main thing is those case studies talk about specific problems that the software has solved for that customer. So that's a really good point that the company can leverage. Number one reason is because you would probably have helped the company fix a specific KPI, maybe increase social media growth. For example, this one case study that I have in front of me, they explain how they have this company create a 44% social media growth using their marketing hub tool. So as soon as I put that case study into my SEO tool, it showed me that they have 70 referring domains, and most of them are from other websites that are linking to this one statistic, right? So that's very useful. If you think about it and you try to reverse engineer that, is you can essentially think about it like, how can we use the KPIs that we help our clients kind of increase, to send or for other websites to use as sources to prove specific points that they're trying to make. For example, you could, in this situation, you could reach out to all of those articles that are talking about how to use tools, marketing tools to increase social media growth. And then you can be like, hey, we help this client increase their social media growth 44%. This is the case studies with how we did that. Chances are you might as well get a very nice backlink from that page because it's a good data point that's unique. Nobody else has that, and it's very useful to prove the specific point.
So when is the right time to ask for a case study?
I would say straight after, right? As soon as you have some data to prove that you have helped the specific company, as soon as you can, and just create the page as soon as possible, essentially. You don't want to there to be too much time between when you got the results and when you asked for the case study as well. And there's specific processes as well to ask for a case study, best practices. I talked to Joel Kletke of Case Study Buddy as well, and he gave me a gold mine of processes and best practices to ask for case studies in the best possible way that gets you the best written experience as well. There's a specific format. But I would say just studying companies that are doing it well, like HubSpot, Salesforce, those are great examples. And you can just get a good feel for how you should do that, essentially.
And your next example is testimonials.
Yeah. Testimonials it's very similar to case studies at the end of the day. Most people just slap the testimonial on the homepage, right? It's nice to see, but the way that I would go about that is to actually create a specific, maybe testimonials page that you can use. That is a nice way to showcase your authority, your social proof, which makes your website, like your whole website, more authoritative as well. That helps when you are dealing or negotiating for backlinks. In my case, you can be like, hey, like, look at this, my product works. There's a lot of happy people here. Specifically, we've seen that companies that have a stronger brand, stronger authority, it's typically easier to get backlinks, right? Because if someone is negotiating with you for a link on a specific page, then they go to see your website, there's no case studies, no testimonials, the domain rating is very low, they'll be like, what's in it for me, right? So if you have more authority, more testimonials on your page, that typically helps. If you have testimonials from people that are very famous, like maybe in your niche, that helps. But the best thing about testimonials is also the fact that the people that left the testimonials might be willing to share them on social media. If you create this specific page, right? They might as well share the same testimonial on their website to showcase that they used your product. Okay. So that kind of ties in to some of the other points, like user-generated content, for example, is the next one on my list. User-generated content is essentially creating true advocates of your brand so that they create content about your product or your service, right? So for example, I'm a huge fan of Vivo Barefoot. Is this brand that does barefoot minimal shoes. And so I have a personal site as well where I talk about my running. And I did an article actually about my transition from normal shoes to these types of shoes. And I mentioned all about like this brand and how I like their principle, their core values as well. So I think it's all about sharing your mission, your values, so that your customers actually become true advocates of your product, but also the ethos behind it, right? So that kind of makes them want to share. Yeah. User-generated content can be like blog articles, social media posts as well. And so it's all stuff that is good for social proof, but they can also rank as well as attracting backlinks, right? So the article that I wrote about this brand is now ranking for some of the keywords like barefoot running, transitioning to barefoot shoes, and all of that stuff. So,
and is it a good idea to actually ask your customers to write an article and include a link on it, or is that too much information? Do you just need to make it enticing for them to share about what you're doing organically and just trust that a link will appear organically?
Yeah, I would say don't be too pushy. Just make it as enticing as possible for them to create the content about your brand. And I think like 90% of the time it will just come naturally because it makes sense for them to want to point people to the specific product, right? So same exact thing that I did in my article. I actually want people to try out these shoes. So I linked to the company website. I linked to some of the training courses that they have. So I think it should just come naturally. If you have like after a month, maybe something you could do is like an unlinked brand mention campaign. So you could go after some of those articles that maybe mention your brand, and then you could find some ways to incentivize them, right? So you could be like, if you have a software product, for example, you could be like, hey, I saw you mentioning a brand. Thanks a lot for the shout out. We are offering a 1 month free for the subscription if you can just add the link to the website. So that's going to help other people find us and really enjoy the product.
And something else that you've got on your list is guest blogging. So is that just as effective as it used to be?
Yeah. So I think so. Guest blogging still works. The main thing is having a nice, creative pitch when you reach out. In this case, what I'm talking about is essentially having your customer create a guest blog article on your own website, right? So if I'm a software product, I can have a customer write an article about how they are using my product. An example for this is I use Pitchbox as my main outreach tool. And so they asked me to do an article on their website, and I just did an article about how I essentially transitioned to using a bunch of different tools for a lot of different things that I was doing to just using PitchBox as the main one tool for everything. So that's useful for their customers. That's useful for new people finding out about the tool. And it's a backlink as well. But also the good thing is that I wrote an article on PitchBox. It's a good link that goes back to my site because I linked to my site from the article. But then I also share the article. It's one of the main pieces of content that I send over to prospective customers as well, when they are interested in seeing my process and like the kind of tools that we use and how we work. So yeah, it basically keeps going around, and it's an evergreen piece of content as well.
And something that's quite familiar to me, webinars and podcasts.
Yeah. I mean, those were great, as you know. So like companies could either create their own shows and then invite their customers to talk about it, similar to a guest blog essentially, but in a video or an audio format, which it's great for distribution. As you know, creating snippets, video or audio snippets, those have the potential to have a lot of reach, possibly more than just a simple blog article. So yeah, it's important to also understand where your customers hang out, the types of media that they consume. So if the podcast or video kind of format is best for them, then maybe this is the way that you should go. And it's all about, again, featuring the specific way that your product or service has helped your customer. But the thing is to do it in their own words. So it's more credible, it's more authoritative, and they will be incentivized to share it back to their digital communities or network as well.
And the last one that surprised me that was on the list was affiliate programs. So surely an affiliate link isn't an SEO friendly link. Yeah,
that's true. That said, it's still a nice way to spread the word about your product, right? So I think if you can get more people to buy your product or your service, then at the end of the day, that's more share of voice that your product has in the market. And that's going to push people to write more content, talk about the product more, share on social media. So anything that can essentially help you amplify and get more reach, then I think it's going to benefit the SEO at the end of the day. Because if you only think about SEO benefits just with specific links, domain rating 20 plus or whatever, that's very limiting, right? So at the end of the day, now, especially in 2024, I think people need to look at SEO more in a holistic way and take care of everything that's going to give you more reach. This is distribution, different types of media, and essentially get more people to talk about the product.
Got you. So you have to think about the indirect impact on SEO as well as the direct impact.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the day, it's all about building trust. I think that's the direction that Google has been going on for years. And it's going to go more and more in that direction, specifically with artificial intelligence in the mix. It's all about building trust, getting true fans, true customers that really love your product and then can be ambassadors of the product.
If an SEO is struggling for time, what should they stop doing right now so they can spend more time doing what you suggest in 2024?
Yeah, well, tied to my number one tip, I would say stop creating new content and just get in touch with your customers and try to get them to create the content for you, right?
Love it. Okay. Alan Silvestri is Managing Director at Growth Gorilla, and you can find him over at mygrowthgorilla.com. Alan, thanks so much for being part of SEO in 2024.
Thank you, David. It's been great as usual.
I've been your host, David Bain. Get your copy of SEO in 2024, the book, over at SEOin2024.com.